The first point is that how the hell do we get to Byfleet area? Because what happened was that we've been formed in 1940, 70 battalion, young soldier battalions, to guard airfields, because the RAF had no, only people guarding them were the RAF police. They're only armed with revolvers and stuff. So old General Lord Ironside, who was Chief of the Imperial General Staff, said, why not take young soldiers, 17, 18-year-olds, on home service duties, form them into young soldier battalions, and to actually guard our aerodromes, which they did. And so all the county regiments formed young soldier battalions. Now we got involved, there were two regiments in Surrey. That was the Queen's Royal Regiment, based in West Surrey, whose headquarters were at Stoughton Barracks in Guildford. They looked after a lot of the airfields in Surrey that we didn't, and also in Hampshire. But we, the 70 Battalion East Surrey Regiment, we got involved with the Royal Sussex Regiment, because the three counties nearest the airfields in France were Essex, Kent and Sussex. So we were helping out the Royal Sussex Regiment. And so the 70 battalions were formed with us 17, 18-year-olds. And of course we did our duties down there until the RAF realised they should be guarding their own aerodromes. Because all before that, all over were RAF police. So they formed the RAF regiment. So that eventually we became redundant in that respect of guarding airfields. So what were they going to do with us? It was rumoured that we were going to be moved to the Dover area. The other was to Northern Ireland. So anyway, about July, August 1941, 3 coaches arrived at, because we were then based at Newdigate in Surrey, a little village there, our company. So these 3 coaches arrived together with other trucks to take our equipment away, and off we went. We didn't move south, so we knew it wasn't going to be in the Dover area. And we thought, and we never moved towards the London train stations, because we do Northern Ireland. It would have been transport from Paddington up to Holyford in Anglesey and across into Ireland. Instead, we found ourselves firstly in Dorking, then in Leatherhead, into Oxshott and Esher in Cobham, and suddenly we found ourselves passing through Byfleet, through Byfleet, then through West Byfleet, and our company, F Company, finished up in Purford at Danecourt School, which was empty, but being a private school, it had their pupils had evacuated to the West Country for the fear of bombing in London and their home counties. So that was our headquarters, Danecourt School. It was gradually, as the other RAF regiment trained squadrons took over the other airfields, so our other companies moved. A and B Company moved to A Company to Gower Road in Weybridge, B Company to Ellesmere Road in Weybridge, and C Company was near Brooklands. We believe on occasion guarded the Vickers Armstrong works there, local Wellington bombers. And then D Company moved into Dartnell Park in Byfleet. Because they had empty houses there, because a lot of people who'd evacuated to the West Country and played for their jobs had also taken furniture. So there were all these empty houses in Dartnell Park available for housing soldiers. Our headquarter company finished up in Clock House, is it still Clock House still there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Clock
It's
House.
private development now.
Yeah, and the headquarters finished up in the old manor house near the way, near the River Way. So then we were all housed eventually in that area. And can you excuse me while I have a cough?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, and so we noticed a lot of change when we under Alan Brook, who was the previous South Eastern Commander. We used to have a cushy weekend. You do a bit of training on the Saturday, and the rest of the Saturday was you were going to walk into the cinema. On Sunday morning was no church parade, and Sunday afternoon was also a cushy. And suddenly we noticed there was a change in our tactics, because on Saturday morning, instead of a bit of training, we used to be marched to West Byfleet station on the train to Brookwood. Then we marched from Brookwood to the Byfleet Ranges and spent most of the day on the ranges. We had a ordinary packed sandwich lunch. We could get a cup of tea there in a little cafe. Then we came back, didn't get back to Perford till about 5 o'clock. We would have a hot evening meal, and then of course we weren't finished then, because we had to have rifle inspection in the evening. I suddenly realised what was happening. A bloke called Montgomery had taken over Alan Brook. And he was a die-hard for training, see. And so things went on, and eventually we started rehearsing for his parade. I think we used Byfleet Cricket Club on occasions to do a bit of parading. And of course then came the big day, Saturday, December the 6th, 1941. And of course all our companies, and we were all out on line in Byfleet Recreation Ground. And of course the band from the East Surreys, which was the 1st Battalion, who were the home battalion, were playing on the far side of the recreation ground in the old 3-4 time, War's time, while Monty. And of course we were all in line and all facing forward. So as Monty came to inspect each company, you get the old left turn, you know, company left turn, and you all turn to your left, so he could come and face you as he walked past, you see. He was only within a few feet of me, he was on the outside rank, see. He went right up to being the last company. He then turned around the corner and came down the other side, so we got the old quick command of about turn, so he turned from left to right and he went down the other side. Because then, when he seen all the companies of both sides, it was turned to do the march past. And the band immediately stopped playing, got into their ranks and marched across the recreation ground in the recre lane to take up the lead the parade. And of course they got a platform a bit farther down. I don't know quite where it was, down from recre lane or outside there, so he could take the salute. So of course then it was the old, I think it was our regiment or Sergeant Major got the command, you know. Simply as East Surrey young soldier battalion, East Surrey regiment, will march at quick time, and of course we got the old command, and the quick time, quick march, where went the band playing the old regimental march, which was a southerly wind in a cloudy sky. I can't remember how it goes now, but away we went on the march. And of course we were right at the very back, so I didn't see a lot that was going on up the front, but we marched quite a way and eventually finished up in the roads near Clock House. And of course that was the time for old Monty to give us a little lecture. But instead of being in a long line of companies, we were grouped into two blocks of three companies in each. And he might have told us that we, as young soldier battalions, had done a good job in helping out the RAF and the airfields but now we were being redundant because the recruiting has stopped, and men were now getting from age 17 up to 18s. 18s were now up to going up to no, 19. In fact, many had reached 19 anyway, and had been promoted to other units, senior soldiers. And of course, he said that would be before long. They'll all be found assessed on their abilities from education and on their peacetime job as to where they were going. Because I'd already been assessed, been in the electrical industry, and of course what had happened was that searchlights was redundant. The searchlight being cut off at 1,200 feet, and now with improvements to aircraft from the First World War, these they could fly much higher than 1,200 feet. So searchlights were utterly useless. So a chap called Robert Watson Watt had introduced a thing called radar, or what he called RDF, radio direction finding, using an electronic high frequency signal. He found it bounced off metal, and they could pick up the echo from this bouncing off metal onto a receiver, which was radar, which gave you range, elevation and bearing. That was the distance from the gun you were firing to the target, where it was in the sky from the ground level up to 90 degrees, and what direction it was flying, right, left, in all directions. So that was radar. Now I've been assessed to go on a radar course to Nord Technical College in West Nord, South East London. And so I left the battalion, or the F Company, on January the 1st, 1942, and went to Nord and passed out. And from there, when I passed out, I was no longer with the East Surrey Regiment. I joined them, the Royal Army Ordnance Corps, which had two functions. One, they did all the buying for the army, and they also had a section which had trained technicians. And of course, and now I became a trained technician as a radar mechanic. But of course, in October 1902, the RAOC were this specialist section was taken away from them, and a new corps formed called REME. It stood for Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers. And I changed my rank from private to craftsman, and so that's why I left the East Surreys at Byfleet. But because how long they stayed, I don't know. But gradually, all the other men in the Byfleet area sort of moved up to different units in the army, and so Byfleet lost their East Surrey Regiment Battalion, and of course then it was then after the war that I got involved again in Byfleet. We were at Danecourt School, Perth.
Oh, you were in Danecourt, were you?
Yeah,
right.
We used to have to come in and out of Byfleet anyway, because you've got to realise with a battalion, you don't have all soldiers. But one thing is that you go sick, so you've got to have medical.
Yes.
So you have a medical officer from the Royal Army Medical Corps,
right.
plus his medical assistants.
Yeah.
And of course, on occasions there, whenever you were sick, you either got a lift if a car was available with your company, or you walked. And quite a number of times, you're going sick to Clockhouse in Byfleet, like to walk from Perfect, and of course then also you got to eat. So you have other specialists, men from the Army Catering Corps, to cook your meals, see? And because quite a lot of times, one of the things we hated was we used to do guard duty about once a fortnight on at the Manor House in the battalion headquarters.
Yeah.
And we hated it because it was by the river. And I remember the first time I was there, in the early hours of the morning, in the darkness, these little water rats used to appear. And all you could see were these two little eyes, like little light bulbs, like that. All shining around your feet. We used to hate that there. And of course then the point was that we also formed a little band. We had a little band formed where we were stationed at Newdigate. But when we got to Byfleet, because the other companies there, we found other musicians. And there was a 6-piece band. Old Sergeant Robinson, who was my platoon sergeant, played trumpet. I was on the alto sax. We had a bloke called Jebrovich, but he reached 19, so he got transferred up to a senior battalion, so we lost him as a sax player. We had a bloke played a piano accordion, I can't remember his name, and there was a Lance Corporal played piano, another one on drums and string bass. So about a 6-piece orchestra, and we played 1 or 2 dances in Byfleet Village Hall, and also at Cobham Village Hall. But our big night was when we played at a dance at the Playhouse in Walton-on-Thames. Okay. And also we had quite a number, being in the school at Dane Court, they had the old sort of main hall. It was a big hall. We used to play quite a few dances there. You get the locals from West Byfleet and places to come with their young ladies. And there was a hospital there, was it? St Nicholas Hospital. I think it was in Purford. We used to get some of the nurses used to come along as well. And that was it. And because then, so that was, and it was after the war. It was funny because All Power Transformers, actually head office was in Wimbledon.
Yeah.
Run by the Thompson brothers. But how we got involved was that a radar research establishment at Park Royal during the war had a command officer called Major George Walter, and he wanted some of his experiments, wanted sort of equipment like transformers and stuff, and inductors and stuff. And old Fred Sage, who was his store sergeant, lived at Range Park, said, "All Power Transformers at Range Park were making them for you, sir." So, of course, that was during the war, and he's there. And old George Walter went and saw the Thompson brothers after the war, and George Walter wanted to do a bit of experimenting and other stuff, and new electronic techniques. So they decided to form a new company called the Special Instruments Division, and took over in Byfleet. Took over in the a little building in Oyster Lane and they call it Oyster Lane and Chertsey Road. And it was only because my older brother found an advert in a magazine called The Wireless World, asking for former radar technicians in the services to join this company in Byfleet. So that's when I joined in 1948, and we stayed there until, I stayed there until 1955, when I and another chap from Old Powers there, we moved to a company in Feltham called the old famous EMI company, making electronic equipment for the armed forces. But in 1967, because things in the electronic industry were going from bad to worse because there was too much activity with other companies, and EMI wanted to give up this factory, which was costing them money to rent, and move to their headquarters in Hayes. In no way did I want to go to Hayes, because I had to give up driving because of eyesight problems, and I had a scrounge lift to go on public transport, and getting to Hayes in Middlesex was going to be terrible. So eventually, I forget how it was, we got chatting to somebody from APT, and we went back there to, and I stayed there until 1972 when things pretty desperate financially that I got made redundant, and then 2 years later APT collapsed completely. So that was my last terms with APT. But whilst at APT in the 48 to 50, 55, we formed a cricket club. And we used to play our home matches in Byfleet Recreation Ground. And also there was a thing called the Surrey Club, I think, a private club. And we became associated with them. We used to use their premises for our sort of little dance evenings and other functions. So that was my association with Byfleet.
So when you were in Byfleet, and the other 17 and 18-year-olds were with you,
Yeah.
Did they come from all over the country, or were they from locally?
Well, mainly, oh yes, we had quite a few. I mean, we had what was his name? A chap came from somewhere in Norfolk. Yeah, and they come from London and places. And Johnny Whitehall, he came from Battersea. Unfortunately, he got when the battalion dissolved, he joined the what was it now? Anyway, he got killed, poor devil. And my army number was 6153172.
Never forget it.
And the chap who was 6153172, old Reg Phillips, came from Hampton. And that's what Whitehall's with the commandos, that's right. And anyway, Reg who came from Staines, he'd been driving. So him, poor devil, got to one of the tank regiments, and he got married. Met a young lady. He did his training in Minehead in Somerset, and he met a young lady there and married. And she was expecting their first child. And poor Reg got killed in battle in North Africa, and so did Johnny Whitehall. Because what happened was that with the radar systems, we had your jamming procedure. If you were on a certain frequency picking up on enemy aircraft, the enemy could then go swing over a range of frequencies and pick up the frequency you were transmitting on and jam it, see? So we formed a thing called wobulation. You didn't swing it over an arc, you jiggled your frequencies around, see? So to fool them. But then the Germans beat us. They formed we have a high frequency oscillator, which we were limited in the frequencies you get. Now the Germans invented a new oscillator called a magnetron. We wanted to know what the magnetron was what, and so we had a commando raid in either Dieppe or Le Havre to pinch one of their equipments, which we did. But poor old Johnny Whitehall got killed, and he was with the commander, so he got killed, poor devil. And so that was it. And they also had 3 lads who were 18-year-olds when we were at Hereford, and they were all public school boys. In fact, one son, his father was a high frequency officer up in London, and he was a Major General, I think, yeah. And he went to the 3 when they were mid-19. They went into Oxford officer cadet training units to become army officers, see? And so that's what happened. All these chaps disappeared to other units. Well, I don't know whether we do, but I'm assuming that our C company used to do a nightly guard on the...
Right.
Because the point was over here, we had a lot of bombing raids. Now we had the old, what is now the Queen Elizabeth Shoe Reservoir between Walton and Molesey. It was a big open ditch at the time. It wasn't filled at all. It was only being built. Now at night, because you remember that being darkness, German bombers were mistaking this open bowl to be Brooklyn's track.
Right.
And that's why they were bombing these places here. So, and of course, the point was that they kept mistaken. The only raid on Brooklands, it was a daylight raid.
Mm.
And I was still working in civil employment. I hadn't joined the army until September 20th, 1940. And I was working down the road to Hewitt Electric, and their lunch hour was from 1 to 2. Now, I used to come home, I live next door, for my lunch at 1 o'clock. I used to get back to the factory about 20 to 2. And that day, it was a lovely sunny day, and there were a lot of our lads were sitting outside in the sun, so I joined them, and suddenly, out of the sun came just about 5 or 6 aircraft, and they turned left and was heading towards Weybridge. And within minutes, we heard bombs dropping. Actually, they were bombing Brooklands. But the point was they hit the wrong end of Brooklands. They hit what they done was to follow, being in the sun, they got the glint off the chromium plated of cars and cycles, or handlebars and stuff, and they followed them in. And when they stopped, they dropped bombs there, which was the car park and a test bay for the Wellington bombers. The actual manufacturing area was way over on the far side of Brooklands track, towards Byfleet, see? And they killed quite a number of young ladies who was sunning herself on the air raid shelters and that. And a great mistake. In fact, there was an article written in the Time magazine, because then the Americans weren't in the war, about how this squadron leader had actually done it all wrong. You know, he hadn't got his facts right. He hadn't been fed with the right facts from his agents in England. So that's why he bombed the wrong end. And there was one, no, I won't mention that now.
Yeah, mention it.
One horrible story was we had a chap called Tony Wilson. He worked in Vickers. Now, during the war, you weren't allowed to leave your jobs, especially when they called reserved occupations. But now he was working at test bay, but he actually gone to the manufacturing area on the far side of the factory in the morning to do testing some equipments and taking the equipment with him. So he went to the canteen for his lunch, and of course then there was the old bombing raid came. Instead of going back to the test bay, he went across to the production area to pick up his equipment. So by the time he got back with the equipment to the test bay, everything was all quietened down by then. Aircraft had cleared off the German bombers. And of course he went into there and in the toilets, because the blast had knocked the doors off the toilets, there was a chap sitting on the toilet seat there, dead he was. So Tony thought he'd help out by taking him off the toilet. And the poor devil, as he tried to take the chap off there, the blast had cut the bloke in two. And all he did was to take the top half of the body off. He said it sickened him. And he went and saw his doctor. Eventually got authority to change his job. So he came and joined us down the road at the Hewitt Electric. You know, there's horrible, he said, terrible. Well, we had, of course, the main one was that each company had to supply a battalion headquarter guard at the old manor house. That used to be once a fortnight. And then we also we were on our daily training, which was battlefield tactics, and of course then we used to do this guard on. Used to do a rifle shooting on a Saturday at Byfleet, and of course other duties there. And of course, as I said, I was mainly learning how to fight warfare, fire guns and throw bombs and bayonet fighting and stuff, and guard duties. And so then we spent a lot of time rehearsing for a Monty's parade. Of course, we also had lots of lectures as well, see. Because what fooled a lot of us was that the Labour Party used to give these, during the war, all the political parties used to give us lectures from time to time. But what annoyed me was that we were fooled after the war. The Labour Party said that after the war, if they got back into power, they would build 2,500,000 homes to house us ex-servicemen. Anyway, when I was married, I applied to the local council for my house, for one of these 2,500,000 houses that because the Labour Party was then in power, that they promised me after the war. And I got the application form, so I filled all the details, and I was living in rooms at the time in Kings Road and Walton-on-Thames. And the first question was, it said, as I will be the tenant of a council house, had I been resident in this area for the last 7 years? which legally disqualified me from the start. The only people getting these houses were the locals who were on what I call reserved occupation. These were jobs in armaments and other things that you weren't allowed to leave. You couldn't leave. See? Oh no, it was quite laughable. That was. And I learned to play the clarinet when I was 11 years old. Now before the war, they had a British Walton-on-Thames and District British Legion band played before the war. And when I was 14 in 1937, I joined this band, and we used to play in local parades and that. And once a month, we used to give a little concert at the old British Legion Hall in Walton. And because each year British Legion had its big annual conference in London. It used to be Whitsun. And a lot of branches from all over the country used to come down, and many like Walton-on-Thames had either brass or military bands. And of course they used to have a big saluting base on Horse Guards Parade. And in 1938, each year they used to pick 3 bands from these other branches from there to go and play at the saluting base. There used to be a big army general used to take the salute. And in 1938, who should be one of our bands but the Walton-on-Thames and District British Legion Band. So I played on Horse Guards Parade. But then the other part was that when I joined the Soldiers, we did our first week. 31 of us were collected to go on our initial training at the Infantry Training Centre, which was set up at the East Side of the Regiment in Richmond Park. Now there, instead of the Home Battalion were the 1st Battalion, and their band, instead of being based at the barracks in Kingston, they were based in the Infantry Training Centre. And I thought, well now, a chance for me to become a bandsman. So I applied, and I went all through the tests. I did read a piece of music, played a piece, saw the bandmaster, band sergeant, Clegg Smith, and I was in fact even went and saw the band president and Major Palmer at the Kingston Barracks, and I was almost in the band. And then the War Office went and spoilt it. They said that only men of low medical grade could be musicians during the war. And I was A1, so I had to go back to battalion. And it wasn't then I'd given up, see. And it was when I was in Remy, at a place, Remy Workshops, a place called Old Dalby in Leicestershire. And we used to work on Saturday mornings in the workshops and finish at 12. About 10 o'clock I got a call in the workshop to say, to report to the workshop office. I went there and I saw Sergeant Lewis, our admin sergeant. He said, "You're being posted to Donington on Monday." I said, "I don't want to go to Donington." No, to me, I said, "It's further north, it's in Shropshire." He said, "But that's it." So anyway, I said, "Can you check that it's me?" He reluctantly got on to the company office and got on to Ring Records in Leicester. And it came back and said, "It's got to be you." So anyway, we moved up on the Monday morning with all my kit. It was a terrible journey. I had to go from Old Dalby, which was a station on the line from Nottingham to Melton Mowbray. I got to Nottingham. My next train was to Derby. I got to Derby. The train at Derby had been cancelled, so I had to wait for the next train, and it was actually packed tight with people. The two lads in the corridor squeezed themselves up to get me in. We went there to Birmingham Longbridge, and from Birmingham Longbridge I then had to go to Stafford, and I up on this big bridge at Birmingham Longbridge. A porter passed me about platform 11. I got off at platform 28 sort of thing. I said, "Next train for Stafford." He said, "Yeah, 2 minutes time, platform 2. So I hurried along, and not only was the train in, it was just about to go out. And a couple of lads in the corridor swung the door open, and the train shuddered to a halt, and they dragged me aboard, and they got me to Stafford. And when I got to Stafford, a young ADS lass said to me, "Are you going to Donington?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Can I come with you?" I said, "Of course you can." See, so anyway, we got to Donington, and the funny little place at Donington, you know, that it's a part of a sort of workshop area of the army. The old porter there said the nearest camp is about 500 yards up the road. See, yeah. So I said, "This is us, lady." Yeah. So we walked down to this camp. And I went in the old RF policeman and I said, "This is F camp." "Yes," he said, "this is F camp." I thought, "Good, I've reached it." She wanted D camp, and a little van drove in, and another chap called old Vic Jackson put his kit out the back. So we went and saw the driver to take this young lady to D camp, which he did. And old Vic Jackson and I picked up our kit and walked to the order room in the battalion. We passed our what we call our regimental routes. It was a big sheet you took, which all your details and how you get into your new station. And the old order room sergeant looked at it and said, "Oh, the two bandsmen." I said, and yeah, and of course he said, "I'll get Corporal Preston to see you." So Tom Preston came along and he said, "Yeah, there's three. Royal Army Ordnance Corps have got 3 bands in the garrison. That was the 9th and 10th Battalion and the Mob and Holding Centre." He said, "Now CO wants a band." And he said the brigadiers said he can have a band. So we've had to check round the Ring Records to find out the bandsmen. So we did. We got a bandmaster, Billy Elliott. He came from, his actual band was the 2nd Battalion Lancashire Fusiliers, but being bandsmen, they were non-combatant. They didn't go abroad with their battalions. See? So he stayed at Aldershot. So I'll build there, and we filled out a band of 30 members of us, and we started playing. It was a cushy number because we got out of workshop duties, and we were going all over the place. Yeah, we played at Woolwich, at Greenford, and all over. And we used to go to what they call an OCTU, Officer Cadet Training Unit. So every month officers used to be passed out, you know, as second lieutenants. There's a passing out parade, and we used to play at these passing out parades on the Friday, and play at the old farewell dance on the Thursday evenings. You know, cushy number. And of course, then the war came to an end in Europe, VE Day, and because the war wasn't over, was it? We were still fighting the Japs out the Far East, and with that, wasn't before long before I was on embarkation leave, and of course, starting to go on the way over, the old Americans spotted, didn't they? they dropped 2 atom bombs into Japan, and the war came to an end, see. But instead of turning their boats around and bringing us home, they carried us on, and I finished up in Bombay. And I went there to what I call an IBTT, inward bound trooping depot, a place called Kalia near Bombay. It used to be a place called Doolally, but they changed that, and they got there. We dropped off 200 on route from Southampton to Bombay, at Singapore, Port Toothpick and Aden, and the 1,800 of us there. They said that 120 of you will be transferred and permanent attachment to the Indian Army. I didn't expect me to be, because although I was known as a telemech, they assumed I was wireless, but I wasn't. I was radar, see, and we didn't touch radar in India. That was done by the British Army, not by the Indian Army. Anyway, I said that after about a week of we had interviews and written exams and other things, they said that all the postings to the Indian Army would be in the notice board that evening. And the old Harry Ewan and I, he was a carpenter, he knew he wouldn't be in the Indian Army. We went into town. On the way back, we went to the notice board. And as we were just starting to look at the postings, the old bulb went. And old Harry was a smoker, so he pulled out his lighter and going down the old list and found that suddenly the petrol run out. He had a box of matches, and I said, "Don't worry, Harry, we're not there." He said, "Yes, you are." I said, "Hello, yeah." And I was on the last day going to a place called Shillong in Assam, see. Anyway, we eventually did a wonderful 3-day train journey I enjoyed, because we spent 3 days on the train from Bombay to Calcutta, to Howrah station in Calcutta. And you slept 6 in a compartment. The little boys like me sat on the seat at the bottom. Your own sort of barrier came out and just pegged into the old pole, which was another bed for 2 more, and the luggage rack at the top, which were the big boys, see? But you had these barriers because if the train suddenly came to a sudden halt, if there was no barriers, you'd be shot out. Anyway. And of course, then you'd take it in turns to go to the kitchen car. You had 3 stops a day. That was the first stop was for breakfast at 8 o'clock. You went there, got this great big canister for 6 of you with your breakfast in there, your porridge and your ham and whatnot, and your cup of tea and your piala char, as we call it. and then you take it back. Then you go off on your train, stop at 12 o'clock for tiffins. And you have a lot salad lunch and that, and another piala char. And then at 5 o'clock you have your main hot meals, and take it in turns as you go and fetch the old big can. Because you also could have to stop at these stations. If you had to walk around the town, you gave your name to the guard. You walk around the town, and you came back and crossed your name off when you told him who you were, and when you had all the names disappeared, off you went for the next stop, see? And then we arrived at Howrah station in Calcutta, and we were told that the workshop that we were supposed to go to in Assam had been disbanded because the war was over, so they sent to a place called Kankanara in Bengal. It wasn't for wireless or radar, it was purely vehicle checks and stuff, and electrical plants. But we stayed there for about a week till they found us another workshop. And while we were there, we got involved with the old trouble, you know. The old Hindus fighting the Muslims and whatnot, and we had to be armed with rifles for safety reasons. But then we got moved from there to place called Baranacker, which was a combined iron workshops which catered for all trades. And it was then that they found out that I wasn't a wireless mech. I was radar mech. So I then got posted to, because now I was sergeant, I got posted to Fort William, the big Fort William in Kolkata, as an admin sergeant, which was a cushy number there, see. Because the big laugh was the first night I went and got posted to go and do for my meal in the sergeant's mess. And another sergeant, old Jimmy Green, said to me, "Do you play an instrument?" I said, "Yes, Jim. I play sax and clarinet." "Just the man we want," he said. I said, "What's that, Jim?" He said, "We've got a little group with shorter numbers, but you'll make the numbers up, see." So I said, "I haven't got an instrument." "Don't you worry, we'll get you an instrument." So the next day, he took me with a private, Brian, I can't remember his surname. He was with the Garrison Battalion, with the 2nd Battalion York and Lancaster Regiment. And I went to this great big building, the fort there, and we went into there. I've never seen so many instruments in my life, It was fantastic. It was what happened when the all the infantry battalions had a military band and a corps of drums. So of course when they went up to fight in Burma, their bandsmen had to give up their instruments. Now they've been stored in this big building, see. So I found myself a sax and clarinet, but I found it a bit awkward on this little stage we had in the sergeant's mess, because we used to play for dancers on the Friday evenings. We had what in here we had what we call the HS girls, remember? In India they had a similar girls called WACIs, Women's Auxiliary Corps India. They were Anglo-Indian girls and others. They would come to the dances. I found a sax on the little stage was cumbersome, so I used to play clarinet. I mean, did very well there, you know. So that was much of my life in the army. Has it been interesting?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic, yeah. Don't know how you remember. You got fantastic memory.
Amazing.
For names and places.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
Go down all right?
I think yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.